Is the Deadwood gambling community struggling? Our top story tonight, after 23 years, this casino plans to close its doors, leaving 30 jobless. Your news starts now.
Now, in high definition, this is KOTA Territory News at 10.
Good evening, I'm Joe McHale.
And I'm Alexandra Montgomery. This is KOTA Territory News at 10. In 1 week, 30 people will be out of work in the gambling town of Deadwood. Deadwood Mayor Chuck Turbeville confirmed the closure announcement of Miss Kitty's on Main Street, which occupies 3 buildings. The 23-year-old establishment includes casinos in each building, which houses 84 gaming devices, a Mexican restaurant, and the Chinatown Cafe. The property has not been purchased yet, but remains for sale. Turbeville says the city will help find someone to lease it.
The weather this year is much different than it was last year. How did 2012 and 2013 compare?
We'll explain after meteorologist Brad Sugden tells us what the weather is up to tonight and tomorrow. Brad?
Yeah, guys, and actually there's a lot of rain out there right now, and if this was last year, we'd be talking about drought. But there is rain out there right now, and actually a severe thunderstorm warning for portions of Meade County until 10:30, and this is for winds in excess of 70 miles an hour. You can definitely tell with this kind of bow-shaped echo that we have going on here that there is going to be some strong winds with this, and it is headed towards phase. So again, that warning goes until 10:30 for winds in excess of 70 miles per hour. Very dangerous storm. Tomorrow we'll start off with temperatures in the 60s. Could still see a couple of clouds in the sky, and then there's the possibility of an afternoon thunder shower tomorrow as well. But our temperatures are on the way down. We're looking for a cool high of only 78 degrees. Now we do dry out, but our temperatures will remain cool. We'll take a look at it coming up.
Thanks, Brad. It's a much different situation this year than you compare it to 2012. Daily showers, storms, and severe weather seems to be making the headlines this year, while last year it was heat, drought, and fire. As of now, about 22% of South Dakota is in drought, 83% for Wyoming. At this time last year, the drought conditions in South Dakota, along with the fire danger, were spiraling out of control. In September 2012, more than 91% of South Dakota was in drought, 5% was in the highest category, exceptional. That in turn gives us fire danger reaching the extreme to critical levels every day. Numerous fires were breaking out on nearly a daily basis. This year, fire danger in the southern hills and Bighorn Mountains in Wyoming are still high to very high because of lack of rainfall. However, the northern hills and northern prairies are in low to moderate fire dangers thanks to consistent rains. It's worth noting that the peak of drought in South Dakota was during the winter months, with 98% of the state in drought, including more than 10% in the highest category.
The dean of the University Center in Rapid City was fired after being convicted of an out-of-state felony. South Dakota Board of Regents Executive Director Jack Warner says Craig Johnson was convicted August 5th in Bisbee, Arizona for making unauthorized use of organization funds while serving as treasurer of the National Association of Branch Campus Administrators. Johnson was accused in May 2012 of stealing $16,000, most of which has been repaid. He was sentenced to 3 years of probation. Warner says Black Hills State University learned of the matter August 7th from a court officer.
If you have a good relationship with your doctor, it's understandable that you would want to keep it. You don't want to be forced to find a new doctor because your insurance company says so.
As Celine Duhamel reports, this is essentially the fight between many doctors on one side and hospitals and insurance companies on the other.
Well, what really got me fired up about this is that I had a
Dr. Stephen Eckridge operated on a broken ankle a few years ago. It was a bad break requiring a plate and screws. Years later, that patient wanted the hardware in her ankle removed. But because of a change in insurance, she could not have Eckridge do the surgery.
So she had to drive 50 miles up the road to a doctor who she'd never seen before to take the plate out. And she wasn't happy and I wasn't happy, and that's just not good patient care. And when you think about it, think of the patients who have chronic diseases. They have diabetes, they have hypertension, they have depression, and they're on medications, and suddenly their doctor is no longer able to follow them anymore. That's not good care, and it's not good medicine. And,
Dr. Eckridge is one of 3 doctors leading the charge to get enough signatures to bring an initiated measure to the South Dakota November 2014 ballot. It's called Any Willing Provider.
The physician agrees to take whatever fee schedule or reimbursement scheme that the patient now belongs to. So there is no extra fee for out-of-network.
But this type of legislation has already failed a couple of times in Pierre with the opposition of all three big hospitals in South Dakota. Rapid City Regional Hospital Director of Governmental Affairs, Scott Ziske, says it would end up costing businesses and patients by driving up insurance rates.
A group of companies get together and they negotiate the lowest prices they can for a specific provider network, okay? And if that is based on volume, on projected volume for that number of people covered under that particular insurance plan. And if we start adding providers to that, then all of the providers have less business, okay, for one thing. And what does that do? It drives prices up, not down.
Ziske says it's a fight between not-for-profit hospitals and for-profit facilities and providers.
This is being promoted by small groups of physicians, a for-profit surgical hospital, where their margins are upwards of 40%.
If the doctors get enough signatures for the initiated measure, Scott Ziske says Rapid City Regional Hospital will oppose it.
This increases costs for everyone.
If you like your doctor and you want to keep them, sign the petition, vote for the bill.
Dr. Eckrich says starting tomorrow you'll see petitions at most medical offices, doctors, chiropractors, physical therapists. They need to collect about 16,000 signatures to qualify for the ballot.
In other headlines across South Dakota, property taxes in Spearfish will remain about the same under the city's proposed $30.8 million budget for 2014. Half of the city's budget comes from sales tax. The budget is an increase of nearly 20% from 2013, but the amount of revenue the city expects to bring in has increased by 25%. Authorities say they've arrested a 57-year-old Yankton man accused in several area school burglaries in South Dakota and Nebraska. Michael Langley is charged with 2 counts of second-degree petty theft and 2 counts of third-degree burglary. And the South Dakota National Guard's Enlisted Association will honor veterans with a march and marathon in the Black Hills later this month. The 10th annual Black Hills Veterans Honor March and Marathon is scheduled for Saturday, September 21st. Marchers will start on the Mickelson Trail at the Rochford Trailhead and finish in Deadwood.
And still ahead on your local news leader, we sit down with a mother who was caring for her baby who weighs less than 2 pounds.
But first, why Israel deployed a missile defense battery to the outskirts of Jerusalem. We cover the world next.
Israel has deployed a missile defense battery to the outskirts of Jerusalem amid U.S. efforts to rally support for a strike on Syria. The Israeli military did not confirm the deployment, saying it does not comment on the location of the batteries known as Iron Dome. With the U.S. threatening to attack Syria over its alleged use of chemical weapons, Israel fears Damascus may respond by firing missiles at Israel, a close American ally.
13 children were injured in a carnival ride accident in Connecticut today when a swing ride apparently lost power. According to the Norwalk Police Department, children on the ride forcefully fell to the ground. The children had minor injuries and were treated and released from the scene, but unfortunately several other children were more seriously injured and were transported to hospitals.
And 7 months after losing its Olympic status, wrestling is reinstated for the 2020 Games today when the International Olympic Committee overturned a decision many members thought was a mistake. The sport, which has ancient roots in the Olympics, easily defeated bids from baseball, softball, and squash. It will now join the program of the 2020 Games, which were awarded to Tokyo yesterday.
With hands and feet just bigger than a penny, baby Bree Taylor is the smallest addition to the Rapid City Regional Hospital's maternity ward.
And mother Narelle Taylor shared with me earlier today the hardships of having a baby that weighs less than 2 pounds.
This is Brielle Alexandra Taylor. At just 1 pound 9 ounces, she's the smallest baby ever born at the Rapid City Regional Hospital.
She was supposed to be born December 18th, and she was born September 1st.
Only 24 and a half weeks pregnant mom, Narelle Taylor, was not ready to go into labor.
I don't know, it was just really scary because I'm hanging out with my friend, and out of nowhere, you just feel your water break.
Baby Bree wears diapers half the size that newborns wear, and right now it's all about keeping her stable.
Making sure her oxygen levels are okay, she's breathing okay, her skin, I can't remember what it's called. They have a special light on her to make sure her skin stays okay.
New moms just want to hold their babies, but Taylor can't. Baby Bree, or Jelly Bean, has to stay inside the incubator.
I can stick my hands into the incubator and hold her hands. I'm not supposed to rub because her skin is so thin.
Taylor says hopefully soon she'll be able to hold her child, but it will be 3 to 4 months before baby Bree can go home. Taylor visits 3 times a day, but leaving isn't easy.
The first day when I was leaving her, it was the hardest day because I didn't want to leave her at all. So many what ifs.
This experience has had an effect on the entire Taylor family.
It taught me more about life and how to appreciate it.
Uncle Lake Taylor says he has big plans for his niece.
I want to teach her how to do fishing and survival guide type of stuff.
And as for his sister,
she does have her moments, but yet she will be a great mother.
Taylor says nurses are now starting to try and feed the baby breast milk.
It was an exciting start to the NFL season. Nabil Romana has highlights from the Vikings and Packers games.
But first, cooler temperatures are on the way. Brad Sugden has the details next in his accurate first alert forecast. Stay tuned.
In the Family Healthcast.
Whole fruit may be better than juice. A new report that they are certainly not interchangeable.
Shit.
Mic check.
Yeah.
Now, the First Alert forecast. Weather coverage you can count on from meteorologist Brad Sugden.
And here's a look at our Golden West weather camera in Rapid City. We did start off with some mist and light rain this morning. Then the clouds cleared out, actually. We saw a little bit of sunlight, just enough to warm the atmosphere for the thunderstorms that made their way on through. A couple of severe thunderstorm warnings for Rapid City, and then another round after the sun went down, definitely, as we went throughout the nighttime hours. Right now we're sitting at 66 degrees after a high of 83 in downtown today, and our winds have dropped. Picked up just under a ½ inch of moisture from that storm, so some good news in terms of moisture. Now let's look at our forecast first, and you'll see that temperatures tomorrow are going to be even a little bit cooler. Only 78 degrees in Rapid City and Sheridan. 82 degrees will be the warm spot in Scottsbluff. Best chance for thunderstorms is down in the Nebraska Panhandle. Otherwise, a possibility of storms still exists across South Dakota as well as Sheridan. And as we go throughout the week, we will dry out a little bit. Temperatures will be cool, but believe it or not, they're still going to be a little bit above average. Then we're going to see some storms and even cooler temperatures come in by the end of the week. This is the wall cloud that many people saw make its way over Rapid City, even a nice tail cloud sticking out there. The rain shaft is well off to the right of this storm. It had kind of multiple cells embedded with it, but still very nice picture sent in from Nick Filkaski out at the airport. Very cool storm today. 100 degrees in Kansas City. The hot air is definitely starting to slide further to the south and east. Notice all the cool air off to the north though. We are going to tap into a little bit of that. It's going to start to feel a little bit like fall as we head out the door. There are those showers and storms still making their way across South Dakota as well as Wyoming and portions of Nebraska. Looking at our First Alert Doppler radar, we do have a severe thunderstorm warning that is still in effect for portions of Meade County in east and northward. With this cell here, winds in excess of 70 miles an hour expected with this storm. You can see the nice bow echo shape to it, meaning that there is a lot of wind. Otherwise, light to moderate rainfall is still going on behind it. Some storms farther down to the south as well, around Pine Ridge, Oglala, Batesland, stuff like that. You can see around the Nebraska border some moderate to heavy showers, maybe even some small hail, but a lot of lightning with this system as well. Then heading off north towards Buffalo, a small thunder shower, a couple of small thunder showers still making their way across Harding and Perkins counties as well. Now rainfall has definitely been key here. Today we did have a couple of severe storm reports, wind and hail. Now rainfall though, Harding and Perkins counties reported almost 6 inches last night in some locations, plus whatever they're getting right now. And here at the airport, this was earlier 35/100ths of an inch, but definitely some much needed moisture. Actually too much moisture as you head off to the north, but we will see some more storms as we go throughout the day tomorrow and at the end of the week. Here are high temperatures again, very warm, still very warm for some of us, 70s holding on to portions of the plains, but there is a cold front coming through that will cool us off, and humidity, it is definitely humid out there as you head out the door tonight. There's that cold front will slowly keep making its way toward the south and east again, giving us the possibility of some storms again throughout the day tomorrow. Here's how it looks in your local forecast. So definitely some strong storms still going on out there. Keep an eye to the sky. Stay safe.
So kids might actually have full days of school this week.
Yeah, I know. Cooler temperatures. Stay in school this week.
Crazy.
Full days. I know. It's
Get that education on.
It's going to be weird.
Thanks, Brad. We all know fruit is great for your health, but what about fruit juice? Helene has the answer next.
And the story of Wild Bill Hickok comes alive in Rapid City today. Stay tuned.
A piece of fruit or a glass of fruit juice. To many, these two
You all know the old saying, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. But what about fruit juice?
As Celine explains new in our Family Healthcast, that may be another story.
A piece of fruit or a glass of fruit juice? To many, these two options may seem almost the same thing, but they may not be, at least where diabetes is concerned. In a new study, an international team of scientists studied data from over 180,000 patients. They looked at eating habits as well as history of diabetes. They find people who ate 3 or more servings per week of raw whole fruits like apples, blueberries, or grapes had a significantly lower risk for diabetes. But those who drank 3 or more servings per week of fruit juice, their diabetes risk 8% higher. Scientists cannot say for sure whether there is a direct link, but they say it is an intriguing possibility. So the next time you reach for a sweet treat, put down the glass and pick up a piece of fruit instead. Our Health Focus reports saving face with saline-endoscopy. 13-year-old Sierra Schoenbeck has enjoyed a healthy childhood until about 2 years ago, when she started having pain in her mouth.
And I thought it was a cold sore, but then it kept on getting bigger and then it burst. And I kept on doing that over and over.
A stone was stuck in one of her submandibular glands. Traditionally, surgeons would remove the entire gland.
I was so scared of them going inside my neck.
Possible nerve damage and a big scar were tough for Sierra to swallow.
To see her scared and worried hurt me.
Dad discovered a minimally invasive alternative called a saline-endoscopy.
We can leave the glands alone.
Dr. Gary Josephson entered the salivary duct and gland through the floor of the mouth using a diagnostic scope with a camera the size of a toothpick.
While you're doing this, you're watching the monitor, so it looks to me like it's giant.
Once the camera is in, saline is run through the duct to keep it open while the surgeons send in this tiny drill to break up the stone. If the pieces don't flush out with the saline, this tiny wire basket is used to catch and pull out the remains.
When we're done with this, there's minimal pain and they're good to go.
And extremely grateful.
Grateful that I live in a technology world.
Sierra was put under anesthesia for this procedure, but left the hospital that same day. She was back to normal in less than 48 hours. Compare that to the standard procedure that would require at least 1 to 2 day hospital stay and a longer recovery due to incision and removal of the gland. If a surgeon is unable to remove the stones endoscopically, that gland would still have to be removed. Insurance companies typically cover this procedure. Email me if you want to read the full-length doctor's interview on the saline-endoscopy. And you can watch this Thorny Healthcast again for 30 days on our website at KOTA-TV.com. With the Family Healthcast, I'm Helene Duhamel.
Clubfoot. Tomorrow, Helene tells us about the most common birth defect you've never heard of.
Adrian, Peterson, and the Vikings look to start their season off with a win.
And we'll catch up on some MLB scores. Nabil Romana has all your exciting highlights next in KOTA Sports. Stay tuned.
Adrian Peterson and the Vikings look for a win. Adrian Peterson spent most of his preseason setting goals. Most of those goals are for the Vikings as a team, but there is one goal he set specifically for himself, 2,500. That's the number of yards Peterson hopes to achieve this year, and today his quest would begin. The Vikings visiting Jim Schwartz and the Lions today. Both teams looking to start off the season with a win. And on Adrian Peterson's first touch, he says, "Let the quest begin." He makes a miss and hits the seam and takes off untouched for the touchdown. Vikings take the 7-0 lead and make a big statement on their opening drive. That 2,500-yard goal for Peterson, now 78 yards lighter. And let's take another look at it, because this man is going to be a legend. Second half now, Detroit up 20-17, 3rd and 8. Stafford finds Reggie Bush on the screen pass, and he says, "Mr. Peterson, I challenge you to a duel." He goes 77 yards for a touchdown. Lions up 27-17. Fourth quarter now, Lions in the red zone. Stafford throws up the jump ball to Joseph Fourier, his first career touchdown right there. And somebody signed this guy up for Dancing with the Stars because he's got some moves. In the end, the Lions get the 34-24 win. Peterson would finish with 3 touchdowns and 93 yards rushing. Colin Kaepernick and the 49ers taking on the Packers. Last year, this game was a shootout. Let's see what happens today. Kaepernick from the shotgun holds the ball, and the Packers defensive backs locking down receivers, so he'll take off. But Clay Matthews comes over for a late hit, and as the great ring announcer Bruce Buffer says, "Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble." That would spark some tempers. Both teams flagged. Repeat 3rd down. Kaepernick once again in the shotgun, and this time he would find Anquan Bolden on the slant route. He gets by his defender, 10-yard touchdown, 49ers up 14-7. Fourth quarter now, Packers in the red zone, and Eddie Lacy jumps the pile and scores. Packers up 28-24. This one coming down to the wire now. 49ers get the ball back, and the handoff to Frank Gore is good for a touchdown. 49ers retake the lead. Once again, the game was decided in the final minutes as the 49ers get the 34-28 win. 7 months after losing its Olympic status, wrestling was reinstated for the 2020 games on Sunday when the International Olympic Committee overturned a decision many members thought was a mistake. Other sports that were also up for consideration but were not chosen were baseball, softball, and squash. Wrestling will now join the program for the 2020 games, which were awarded to Tokyo on Saturday. Wrestling goes back to the ancient Olympics in Greece and has been on every modern games except the 1900s. Rockies taking on the Padres tonight, looking to take one game in the series, but the Padres would win. This one 5-2. Next up for the Rockies, the Giants. Over to Minnesota next as the Twins also look to take one game in the weekend series, but they also would fall to the Blue Jays, 2-0. Next up for them, the Angels. And just in case you missed it or didn't see the game, Nebraska put a licking on Southern Miss, 56-13, to stay undefeated on the season. And Joe, I know you were watching the 49ers game earlier. You know, what are your thoughts on that?
You know, there was obviously a lot of tension building before that game, and you saw them kind of take it out on each other during, and hopefully there's not a lot of Green Bay fans watching, or else I'm going to lose some fans if I even have any.
I think it was a little bit of a controversial call. They're looking at it again, but I know that Vic Quick is at home with a big smile on his face because his Cowboys won against the New York Giants.
They did. They made a statement today, as well as those 49ers. 2 good teams in the NFC, Bill. Thanks. It's back to the days of 1876 and Wild Bill's dream of making his fortune during the gold rush.
The reenactment of Deadwood's biggest icon.
Get the KOTA mobile news app and take us with you. Download it for free for your iPhone or your Android smartphone. Keep up on the latest local news, check the weather, watch videos. That's coverage you can count on. Get more information at KOTA-TV.com.
A couple of thunderstorms are still possible throughout the day tomorrow, but look at our temperatures as we go throughout the week. Definitely comfortable, definitely a little cooler, but they are still above average. And then the lower 80s, even as we go into next weekend. Thunderstorms making their way back in for Friday into Saturday and possibly even lingering into Sunday.
People in Rapid City got to relive one man's gold-rich dreams today. Wild Bill Hickok's story was performed by Stephen Branch today at the Journey Museum. He says Wild Bill only spent about 6 weeks in the Deadwood area, starting in the summer of 1876, during the heart of the gold rush. Branch says through his research, he is telling Wild Bill's story the way he would have wanted it.
All the things that you read about him or hear about him, and as he says in this show, you know, and most of them just plain ain't true. But he's a very interesting character, and he's fairly complex as well, so he's actually kind of fun to perform.
Branch says his performances are well received by his audience. The next Wild Bill story will be performed on the 22nd of this month. Pretty cool stuff.
That is pretty cool. You know, I'll have you know, when I found out I was going to come out here to South Dakota, I love history, so all that rich Wild West history is so interesting to me. So
we'll have to go check out the next show on the 22nd.
No, I'm not going to go with you.
I wouldn't either. For coverage you can count on 24/7, visit our website at KOTA-TV.com.
And our first team salute tonight comes from kids enjoying the fountains at Main Street Square. Thanks for watching and have a great night.